the collapse of consciousness. Why critical thinking is dying in the age of noise. Imagine living in an age where we have more access to information than any generation before us, yet somehow we understand less. Think about that for a moment. We are surrounded by technology, endless data, and instantaneous communication. Every answer seems to be just a few clicks away. And still, confusion grows, division grows, misunderstanding grows. Why? Because we are not thinking anymore. We are reacting. We are not analyzing. We are echoing. And in this silent transformation, a powerful and dangerous force is emerging, a systemic failure of human reason we call collective stupidity. In this deep dive, we will uncover why critical thinking is vanishing. We will reveal how society is being quietly reshaped into patterns of mass conformity, and what this terrifying trend means for the future of human consciousness. And stay with me until the very end, because the final revelation is not just the most important. It might completely change how you see the world, the media, and the hidden mechanisms operating within your own mind. Before we dive deep, if you are passionate about understanding how the human mind works, if you seek truth beyond surface appearances, and if you wish to awaken your awareness in a world pushing you towards sleep, then make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. Together, we can reclaim the lost art of thinking clearly in a world drowning in noise. The erosion of depth, convenience, over-reflection. Modern society relentlessly celebrates convenience over reflection. We are told that everything must be fast. Fast food, fast entertainment, fast opinions, fast news cycles. The faster we consume, the smarter we supposedly become. But in truth, speed has replaced depth. And that relentless shift has made us profoundly intellectually fragile. Philosopher Neil Postman, in his prophetic book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, warned us decades ago. He argued that the danger was not that people would be openly oppressed, but that they would come to love their oppression, that we would drown ourselves in triviality, unable to distinguish meaning from the constant noise. That prophecy is unfolding before our eyes, amplified 1,000 times over by the digital age. Think about the attention economy. We scroll endlessly, absorbing fragmented bits of reality without context, without critical questioning. This phenomenon, which we can call the TikTokification of knowledge, conditions our brains to reject any thought that requires more than 60 seconds of focus. Summary culture, the relentless demand for bullet points and easy answers, has replaced the arduous, necessary work of reading and internalizing complex ideas. The system rewards outrage, not understanding. The louder, the more simplistic, and the more emotionally triggering the opinion, the higher it rises in the feed. And as this digital echo chamber expands, independent thought collapses. The individual merges into the crowd. As Carl Jung once chillingly wrote, "The crowd has no conscience. It is capable of anything precisely because it thinks of nothing. It operates purely on emotional contagion, the substitution of education." But why is this intellectual decay happening in a world that supposedly values education and progress? The answer lies in a subtle yet devastating shift in values. Once, education meant learning how to think. It cultivated the courage to doubt, the patience to analyze, and the humility to admit error. Today, it means learning what to think. Students are trained to memorize, repeat, and conform to acceptable narratives. Original, dissenting thought becomes dangerous because it disrupts the smooth operation of the system. In a society built on comfort, compliance, and easily managed consumerism, questioning becomes an act of rebellion. Philosopher Bertrand Russell was not exaggerating when he said, "Most people would rather die than think. In fact, they do." To think critically requires discomfort, the courage to face contradictions, to tolerate ambiguity, and to admit ignorance. But modern life is built on eradicating discomfort. So instead of thinking, we outsource our opinions to influencers, media empires, or political movements that package and deliver what we should believe. The result is a generation of minds that feel informed, but are, in truth, deeply enslaved by borrowed ideas. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you paused in the middle of a surge of outrage and asked, could I possibly be wrong? This question seems simple, yet it is at the absolute heart of wisdom. The ability to question oneself is what truly separates knowledge from illusion. And when that ability dies, the civilization begins to decay from within. The algorithmic trap, rewarding conformity. The rise of collective stupidity is not accidental, it is engineered. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, in his groundbreaking work, Thinking Fast and Slow, explains that our brains are wired to take shortcuts. System 1, relying on instinct, emotion, and quick association instead of slow, deliberate reason. System 2. These shortcuts helped our ancestors survive in dangerous environments, but in the modern world, they make us vulnerable to manipulation. Corporations, politicians, and media institutions exploit these cognitive biases to guide our thoughts without us even realizing the puppet strings exist. What we call free opinion is often expertly engineered consent. The mechanism of the echo chamber, the digital infrastructure, is specifically designed to promote confirmation bias. The algorithm's primary function is not to inform you, it is to keep your eyes on the screen by feeding you more of what you already like. This creates a relentless, self-reinforcing echo chamber that isolates you from dissenting evidence, solidifying your existing worldview. We are literally living in mental bubbles designed to protect us from the pain of disagreement. But discomfort is the birthplace of wisdom. Without it, there is no growth, no sharpening of the intellect. The internet has given everyone a voice, but it has also given everyone an illusion of expertise. As Socrates taught, wisdom begins with recognizing our ignorance. Yet in today's world, admitting, I don't know, or I might be wrong, is treated as weakness, a signal that risks exile from the digital tribe. This leads to a paradox, a deep, profound ignorance that hides behind absolute confidence. We see it every day. People arguing with absolute certainty about things they barely understand, powered only by the validation of their group. As philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti once warned, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And that is exactly where we are heading, a world perfectly adjusted to stupidity. We are entering an era where emotional manipulation replaces logic and where the feeling of belonging is aggressively traded for truth. The machinery of control, fear, guilt, and pride. If you wish to understand why critical thinking is dying, you must look at the emotional machinery behind it. Because collective stupidity does not operate through logic, it operates through emotion. Logic questions, but emotion obeys. Every system that seeks control begins by mastering our emotions, not our intellect. Fear, the great silencer. Think of how fear has shaped human behavior throughout history. Fear is the most efficient tool ever invented to silence thought. A frightened mind doesn't analyze, it reacts. It doesn't ask why or how, it asks what now and how do I stay safe? Political regimes, religious institutions, and modern media all use this same fundamental mechanism. They bombard us with narratives that keep us anxious, angry, or outraged, because a calm, centered mind is hard to control, but a fearful one will believe anything that promises immediate safety. As philosopher Baruch Spinoza observed, those who are able to control fear control the people. Today, fear is packaged in headlines, viral trends, and social movements. It hides behind the language of virtue or urgency. We are constantly told what to fear, The virus, the climate, the opposing ideology, the enemy tribe. The moment we accept fear without question, critical thinking immediately shuts down. Belonging. The weaponized tribe. This emotional manipulation is amplified by the human need for belonging. We crave to be part of something larger than ourselves. But in the age of digital tribes, belonging has been weaponized. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt, in The Righteous Mind, explains how moral reasoning has become tribal. People now think in groups. They defend ideas not because they are objectively true, but because they belong to their identity. To question the group's belief is to risk social exile, and very few are brave enough to stand alone. This emotional loyalty transforms intelligent individuals into obedient members of the herd. The moment you deviate from the approved narrative, you are instantly labeled left or right, believer or denier, hero or villain. We live under constant social surveillance, censoring ourselves to avoid judgment. Every time we choose silence over honesty, collective stupidity grows stronger. Guilt and pride, the virtue signal. The manipulation doesn't end there. Guilt has become another powerful tool. Today, guilt is used by ideologies to enforce conformity. People are taught to feel guilty for things they didn't do or for opinions they haven't even expressed. The goal is not to enlighten, it is to control. Because a guilty person does not argue, they apologize and comply. This is often coupled with the illusion of moral superiority. This is the belief that my group is good and all others are evil. This illusion is one of the oldest traps of the human mind. It justifies hatred and destruction in the name of righteousness. Today, this lives in outrage culture, where people destroy reputations with a single post, all in the name of justice. But when everyone believes they are on the side of truth, truth itself disappears. Reality becomes fragmented into countless competing versions, and each tribe claims theirs is the only one that matters. As Jean Baudrillard called it, we enter the age of the simulacra, a world where the representations replace reality. We no longer see the world as it is, but as it appears through the filter of our chosen ideology. The spiritual cost, the death of individuality. Collective stupidity is not merely an intellectual issue, it is a spiritual one. It is the death of individuality. George Orwell wrote, "The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it." The moment you start repeating what everyone else says just to be accepted, you begin to vanish. You become an echo of the system, not a voice within it. When billions of people choose this same comfort, the result is a state of global hypnosis. We are told who the villains are, what to fear, what to love, and what to ignore. We follow these scripts not because we are evil, but because we are distracted. As neuroscientist Manfred Spitzer noted in Digital Dementia, constant digital overstimulation reduces our brain's capacity for deep focus and reflection. We are losing not only attention but also memory, the very foundation of wisdom. When attention is fragmented, thought becomes shallow, and shallow thought is the fertile soil of collective stupidity. Philosopher Erich Fromm called this the escape from freedom. When people feel overwhelmed by complexity and uncertainty, they willingly trade freedom for the comfort of belonging. It's easier to be part of the crowd than to face the loneliness of independent thought. But that exchange has a devastating cost. The cost of authenticity. When we stop thinking for ourselves, we stop being ourselves. Reclaiming sovereignty, the Socratic rebellion. The ability to think critically is not just an intellectual skill, it is an act of spiritual courage. It means standing alone in a world that rewards imitation. It means valuing truth over comfort, awareness over approval, and conscience over conformity. The philosopher Immanuel Kant defined enlightenment as man's emergence from his self-imposed immaturity. The true awakening begins when we dare to think for ourselves. So, How do we awaken critical thinking in an age designed to suppress it? How do we reclaim the sovereignty of our minds? The path to sovereignty, the practice of silence, the art of non-reaction. In a world of constant noise, silence becomes an act of rebellion. Turn off the screens, step away from the noise, spend time alone with your own unfiltered thoughts. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is sacred. It is the beginning of awareness. Alan Watts said, "No one is more dangerous than the man who has looked within himself." Why? Because such a person cannot be easily manipulated. He has reclaimed his inner authority. The Socratic method of self-doubt. Question everything, especially what agrees with you. Our natural tendency is to doubt what contradicts our beliefs and instantly accept what confirms them. Whenever you feel an immediate, strong emotional reaction, anger, fear, pride, pause. Ask yourself, who benefits from me feeling this way? That single question is the key to unlocking hidden agendas. Socrates was condemned for inspiring thought, not for spreading lies. The world fears the thinker. Cultivating intellectual humility. Seek depth instead of immediacy. Read entire books, not just fragmented posts. Engage with people who fundamentally challenge your ideas, not to argue, but to understand. Every time you admit, "I was wrong," you purify your mind. Humility is the ultimate prerequisite for growth. Neuroscientist Richard Davidson proved that the brain physically changes when we practice mindfulness, strengthening the areas responsible for reasoning and self-awareness. Critical thinking is a neurological practice, reconnecting intuition and reason. The great physicist Albert Einstein said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. To think critically is to reunite both, the analytical and the intuitive, the mind and the soul. It is to see reality not as fragments, but as a whole. Detach from the herd, the view from the outside. You cannot see the pattern while standing inside it. Step back. Observe trends, ideologies, and collective movements with the eyes of an outsider. Ask, why is everyone thinking the same way? Who is shaping these narratives? The majority is not always wrong, but they are rarely conscious. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a survivor of concentration camps, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that the last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That freedom begins with the freedom to think. The final revelation, the service of awareness. When you begin to live this way, something extraordinary happens. You stop being part of the collective sleep. You start seeing patterns others can't. You notice manipulation where others see simple information, and that awareness becomes your shield. It is the armor of consciousness. But here is the ultimate, most powerful truth. The disappearance of critical thinking is not the inevitable end of humanity's intelligence. It is the test of it. Every era faces its spiritual challenge, and this is ours. To remain awake in a world that prefers dreams. To think clearly in a time of confusion is not arrogance. It is service. It is how you protect the light of consciousness itself. You cannot force others to think, but you can think for yourself. And that example is profoundly contagious. Every awakened mind becomes a signal in the darkness, showing others that freedom is still possible. So, the next time you are told what to believe, pause. The next time the world demands your immediate outrage, observe. The next time you feel fear, ask, who placed it there? That is how resistance begins, not with weapons or protests, but with awareness. Because in the end, the rise of collective stupidity is not inevitable. It is a choice, the sum of billions of small decisions to stop questioning. And the fall of collective stupidity will also be a choice, The moment you decide to think again, you have that power right now. And if enough of us reclaim it, perhaps one day future generations will look back at this age, not as the era when thinking died, but as the moment when consciousness began to awaken again.